C-110 had the ability to be there, in my opinion, in 4 to 6 hours from their European theater to react.
They would have been there before the second attack.
They would have been there before the second attack.
You just heard from a whistleblower who is now speaking out about Benghazi, his identity hidden for fear of reprisal, saying that the U.S. did have time to get there and intervene and possibly save lives. As we know, the 2 former Navy SEALs were killed in the last hour of the fighting that night. So our next guest is promising explosive hearings on Benghazi in short order. He says these will happen soon. Republican Congressman Trey Gowdy, House Oversight and Government Reform Committee, joins me now. Congressman, good morning. Good to have you here. What's your reaction?
Thank you for having me.
I know you know a lot of the background on this. When you listen to that whistleblower's soundbite, talk about where that C-110 group was positioned. What goes through your mind?
That's one of the central issues that remains unanswered despite the fact it's been 7 months. Remember, Martha, there are 3 tranches here. The decision not to provide security beforehand, what happened during the siege, why assets were not employed, and then why Susan Rice misled all of us on 5 Sunday talk shows. You have competing narratives. You have the so-called Accountability Review Board. What I'm primarily interested in are the eyewitnesses. It is sad that someone would have to cloak themselves in confidentiality for fear of reprisal, but that's where we are. So that's why Darrell Issa is very clear. There will not be any retribution. We will protect you. We'll provide you with counsel if necessary, but we need people with firsthand knowledge to come forward. We've had some, but we need them all.
We had John Boehner, the speaker, on the show last week, and here's what he said that sort of hinted at where we are now on all this.
I don't think that we've gotten to the bottom of what did the State Department know, when did they know it, why they didn't take action, and then during the attack itself, why weren't assets brought in? Why wasn't our government doing more to protect the Americans who were on the ground?
You know, I thought it was very interesting when we got the Accountability Review Board look at all of this. And there was definitely an effort to close the book on this thing after that. That, you know, we've done our research. We know what happened. The Pentagon was not to blame was one of the outcomes of that report. There's no way that they could have gotten anyone there in time. We heard from the Joint Chiefs of Staff. Mike Mullen also basically said the same thing. So, you know, this is coming from very high up that there was no way they could have made it there. So this is a huge revelation if it is true, Congressman.
Well, welcome to Washington. Here's my question, Martha. How did they know they couldn't have made it there? They had no way to know when it was going to end. They knew when the attack started, but how in the world could they possibly have known when it was going to end while it was going on? I mean, nobody would have foreseen that this lasted 7 hours, so that's the middle tranche. Let me say this with respect to the Accountability Review Board. Martha, there's a reason we don't let students grade their own papers and we don't let defendants sentence themselves or investigate themselves. People lack the objectivity to question themselves. So the fact that the State Department may have cleared the State Department doesn't matter. I could care less. It's Congress's job to provide the oversight. The other point that I think Speaker Boehner hopefully will make is this. We know Susan Rice was wrong. We know that she was demonstrably wrong. What I want to know is whether her intentional misleading of her fellow citizens actually hampered the investigation going forward. We know she contradicted the evidence. We know she contradicted the president of Libya. What I want to know is, did her misrepresentations affect our ability to investigate what happened in Benghazi in the hours and days thereafter? Because we know the crime scene wasn't secured. We know the Bureau didn't go for 2 weeks. What I want to know is, was it because Susan Rice directly contradicted the president of Libya with her Sunday morning talk show appearances? Because there's a difference between just being wrong and being intentionally misleading.
Oh, that's a big question, and you're right about that. What about Hillary Clinton and her role in this? She has testified at one point, you know, she said, what difference does it make? We lost 4 people that day in Benghazi. What difference does it make? Why or what triggered the events of that day? Are we going to learn more about that?
I wish she had asked that question in a committee where I was present. I wasn't present when she asked that. Anytime government fails to provide security for people that we send under our flag into a foreign land to represent us, it matters. And anytime the government has the ability to provide aid during a siege and does not do it, it matters. And anytime high-ranking officials that we trust deliberately misrepresent facts to us, it matters. I understand that she has political aspirations. That's great. If she wants to run for president, more power to her. I'm more concerned about 4 murdered Americans and what our response as a country has been, much more so than her political future.